Okay, it is finally here. This is episode 13 of Finding Fandom, and it will feature none other than Omar from Near Mint Condition. It is something that has been brought up in the comment sections on earlier episodes that they want to see Omar from Near Mint Condition, and I have actually interviewed him long since then. It sure took some time to get a hold of the guy first, to get the time basically to do it, but we finally did it, had a good 1 hour session of talking, and I'm very grateful for that time as it gave me a lot of value, and I hope it does the same to you. And I kept it from you for a long time because, as you know, we pre-record these interviews, but now it's finally here. I won't keep them from you any longer. Here is Omar from Near Mint Condition. Enjoy. Hi, Omar. Thank you
Hello.
for doing this.
You're very welcome. Thank you for asking me to join you.
Oh, man. I mean, you shouldn't be starstruck and everything, but I mean, you're so grounded, so I always felt that you're so approachable to actually show up here on Finding Fandom.
Oh, yeah. Don't be starstruck. You've been on my show before, so
I
no.
know, I know. And every time it's like I was dreaming. I have to pinch myself. So
Well,
here we have, finally, on Finding Fandom, Near Mint Condition, Omar.
hello. Thank you for having me.
So, what I do with Finding Fandom, I've told you this pitch some times ago. I mean, with pandemic and everything, everybody staying at home, and we're more purchasing than hanging out with our comic book friends and everything. And it can easily be seen as the material stuff takes over the community and everything when it's really the passion in between us all that should fill us up with enjoyment for the hobby. So with that, I try to do Finding Fandom and just discover what people really are passionate about with this.
Okay. This is
And
a self-evaluation, like a therapist session, huh?
yeah,
I may
exactly.
find things out about myself I don't like.
I'm
Oh
going
no.
in, digging deep into every channel psyche on. So why are you really buying this book? Really? But no, I mean, it can seem like that I've been overanalyzing myself. Why do I do this? But I would like to think that I'm trying to do something good with it.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, let's do it. Ask me anything. I am an open omnibus.
That's
Open book.
awesome. Easy question. I think I know this answer really, but I don't know if everybody knows how you discovered comic books.
um I, I had an appendicitis attack. So I'm originally from Peru, and uh, my appendix was about to burst. My dad took me to a free children's clinic down there, and I spent, I want to say, about 4 or 5 days there. My uncles from that lived in Miami sent a care package down there with some comic books in it, and the one that stuck out to me was Uncanny X-Men 168, and
Yeah.
it was all in English. I couldn't read English, so I kind of had to make up my own story in my head. And I was also young. I was like, this was 1980, 83, 83, 84. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, moved to America, and I just grew passionate about comics. We moved to America in 1987, but before then, I was reading some things from the publishers down in South America when they're printing X-Men comics called Patrulla X. That's what it was known as when it was translated in Spanish. Just random storylines, though. It wasn't it wasn't in chronological order like we have
Okay.
here. And then when we moved up here, I found, there was my parents would go to a laundromat, and I would go to the pharmacy right next door, which had comic books, and I would sit there and read for free until I was able
For
to.
free. Nice.
Well, they didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
but to me, it was like a library. There was
Exactly.
And my mom and dad would buy me comics from time to time because comics back then were a lot cheaper. Comics back then,
Oh
there was a
yeah.
theory I once heard that comics should always cost, what was it, 3 times as much as a candy bar, I believe is what I've heard, or something like that. I can't remember. So that instead of having a candy bar, your argument would be like, how about instead of a candy bar for the next couple of days, I get a comic book. But for me, my passion was always X-Men, and then that spun out, of course, into New Mutants, X-Factor, Excalibur, Wolverine, branching out to Spider-Man, Avengers. The older I got, the more I got into more and more things, and then eventually found DC with Crisis on
Yeah.
Infinite Earths #8. Then that's the rest, as they say, is history. So here I
Yeah.
am.
I always knew you were like a big X-Men fan, but it really, I mean, it
Yeah,
has been there from the start.
it was. Yeah, I mean, other than like Disney comics and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the Duck comics.
Uh, Disney comics, and there was another comic down there called Condorito. And other than that, yeah, it was always X-Men.
Nice. So, I mean, both you and me, we've been doing YouTube for a very long time now. I mean, uh,
It doesn't feel like it, but yeah, when you
I
look back on
know, I
time, it really
know. I mean,
absolutely.
I've been following your naming condition ever since it was you and the gang, I should say. I mean, Dan, Tina, Maddie, and
Yeah,
everyone. And I
thank you.
mean, the channel has grown, obviously,
It's
and especially during the last couple of years, now up to, I would say, 50,000 subscribers, if I'm not
yeah,
incorrect.
yeah. We made 50,000 this past last month. It
Congratulations.
was a thank you. It was a big milestone. It's you know how it is. It's not easy.
Yeah. And I mean, with that, I mean, it has to have come, of course, by a lot of time, a lot of work. And that is where the subject, my hobby is now my job, comes up.
Yeah, yeah,
And I find that very interesting, walking on that edge of the hobby being my job and just wondering how it feels if if it has affected one side or the other. Do you enjoy it less, enjoy it more? A little about that. Okay, I guess this is a psychologically
yeah. It is.
a therapy session.
And that's okay. That's an excellent question, and one that I've been asked for uh about from my viewers. I think to me, I never, for number one, I never expected this to be full time. I never thought I'd be in my 40s doing YouTube full time. First of all, I'm not the right target audience. My age is way above the age of anybody that should be on YouTube trying to make a career out of it. It just,
There's
I
no
haven't.
age for that, man. You've proven that, if anything.
Thank you. I just kind of stumbled upon it. It just happened by, life.
Yeah.
Losing my career, 20 years being in IT, cannot find anything else that was anywhere near what I was. I wouldn't. I mean, even taking a huge cut in my pay, it was starting at level 1 positions, which is what I was doing 20 years ago. So I thought
Yeah.
to myself, well, if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to go back in my career 20 years, I was looking at the numbers that I was pulling from YouTube, with the ads and all that stuff,
Memberships
and
and
sponsorship.
whatnot.
Yeah, and then we grew our, and that's when I decided, well, maybe if we can expand our Patreon, it might be possible. Because here in this country, one of the most difficult things you encounter when owning your own business, because that's what it feels like, right? Is owning your own business, um, is health insurance.
Yeah.
Like, I've talked to a lot of my friends that live in Canada, overseas. They have universal health care.
Yeah.
Over here, I have to, like, my job was my health insurance and my children's health insurance. When we lost it, we had to look elsewhere because my wife's health insurance plan to add my kids and I would have taken half of her check, which is
Oh,
insanity. You can't
yeah.
live, you can't live on that. So it's another thing too, right? Like, for anybody out there that's even thinking about
Yeah.
it, doing
I've
YouTube for
had
a
the
living.
I've had the discussion about insurance with the hardcover comic, Mike and Matt, actually, but that was after the show on that. And I mean, with Mike being in
Yeah,
Canada and everything.
I don't mind discussing things like that because I think doing this stuff. How do I put it? The grass is always greener, right? It may seem like,
Yeah.
oh man, that's an amazing living to be doing what you love and getting paid for it. Yeah, when you take a step back, which I do a lot, and my wife has to remind me to take a step back and realize, oh, I'm reading comics and I get paid for it. This is a dream come true. 12, 15-year-old Omar would be like, how, if he could travel in time, he'd be like, how'd you do this, man? This is amazing. For me, it is a different kind of stress. So to go back to your question, because I get really into the loop of things,
It's
start talking about things.
this is
Um,
great, Omar. So keep
okay,
on.
okay. To go back to your question though about if it's more stressful, am I still finding enjoyment in it? Yes, I'm completely loving this. It is the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life, for career wise, right? The most amazing
Yeah.
job I've ever had. It's crazy, but it's also the most stressful
Yeah.
because everything depends on the performance of videos. It's a different
Exactly.
kind of stress than when I was doing it, so for those people that don't know, I started doing this full time in January. My channel's been around for 5 years now. Those previous 4 years is what I like to call the trial period. But trial, keep in mind though, like for the last 2 years, I've been making videos just about every day. I mean, and for over a year, I've made a video every day on the channel without expectations of, hey, this is going to be my full time job one day, or
Yeah.
nothing like that. I wasn't expecting that.
No.
Um, so it is really stressful because if a video doesn't perform well, you have to ask yourself, okay, what happened? What can I do differently? It's a different kind
Yeah.
of stress than being in IT. I was a project manager in IT for for the last 7 years. But I've been in IT for 20 years, and the stress there was, being in charge of this team, making sure that you're under budget. That's what everybody likes to hear.
Yeah.
We're under budget, but you never are when you're in IT. Anybody that's ever been in IT knows that whenever you're budgeting a project, you usually about 30% more than that is what you end up spending. Uh, and then you gotta manage your team, you gotta manage expectations, and it's a different kind of stress here than that. But I love this is amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the hardest thing I've had to do because you put a lot of time into this, you put a lot of yourself into this.
You went from a 9 to 5 to a 24/7.
Yeah, which is amazing in its own way. Like everybody, I think most people assume from the other side, like, oh, this guy does YouTube for a living. That's easy. What, he makes a video, and that's it. I don't do live streams all the time. Mine are pre-recorded, and my videos are also depending on how much I read.
Yeah.
So I have to set time aside. So that is one thing that has changed. I was always under the mentality of, okay, I'm going to read Iron Man. I'm going to read Iron Man from the very beginning, the Tales of, all the way to current Iron Man. Set everything else aside.
Yeah.
And then maybe take a break in between volumes of Iron Man to read like a manga. I've never done that. I mean, that was the way I did things up until I started doing this full time. I
Exactly.
started getting review copies from Marvel.
I
And
mean, those have to stack up really
I'd
quick,
be
right?
running. Oh my god, this week was insane! Like, I don't know for anybody who watches my channel. I like to do my advance overviews of books about a week or so, or sometimes the weeks the books come out. This week we had like 7 Omnis released, and I thought I was doing really good because I knew this was coming. But what happened was they, instead of skipping a couple of weeks for a couple of 2 books that were supposed to be coming out later on, they were pushed back until November. And then they
Yeah.
said, no, we're going to go ahead and release them now because we don't know when the ports are going to be open again. So
Okay.
a lot of the delays have to do not just with the publisher like Marvel, but a lot of it has to do with the ports, the distribution company, the shipping company. It just happens that, holy moly, today we got Omnigeddon. And
Yeah.
weeks like that, oh my gosh, dude, I feel so behind. Like I have one more book to talk about. I've done like, I've read maybe 7 pages of it, but I've read it before, so that does help having that memory there. But Yeah, I like to give I take my job very seriously because people
Yeah,
enjoy
I
my
can
content.
tell.
Thank you, thank you. People enjoy my content, and one of the things that they enjoy is this vast knowledge of information about comic books.
Yeah,
Um,
because
yeah,
as fans, we tend to memorize things that doesn't really matter, I
right,
guess.
exactly. In the long scheme of things, you can't just go and win this, man. So here's the thing: when I take my job seriously, I mean I take it to heart. So a lot of that, like people are like, "Man, you're so knowledgeable." Because I've read a lot and I've also
Yeah.
absorbed a lot. I realized not everybody can do that. I've absorbed a lot of knowledge like a sponge. Sadly, that doesn't work in the real life. I miss people's birthdays all the time. I can't remember people's names. Um, or oh my goodness, forgetting to pick up my kids once from school. But that's another story.
Okay.
So
Just to
yes, like there is a price to pay for all this knowledge. And
yeah.
of course, something I learned when working in IT or whatever profession you have, you always have to keep current. So something that was, the program you were using 7 years ago is not relevant now. So you
No.
have to go back, do a little schooling, do some learning. So I was always constantly learning. So I'm okay with that. Now it comes to setting time aside to read,
Yeah.
but still setting time aside to read for fun because this is still fun. Like I enjoy reading, and I've given up, uh, playing long
Video games?
RPGs. I
Yeah.
can't I can't play 100-hour JRPG anymore like I used to in my 20s.
Yeah.
I love them, I miss them, but it's not logical for me to set 100 times first because I'm a father. I have kids. I actually love my kids and love spending time with them. And I'm doing this full time, and this is really time consuming. Um,
Oh yeah.
because yeah, that's when this goes back to my point. Like a lot of people that view my channel ask me to do overviews of books and want me to do something. Sometimes I have to say, well, I haven't read that, and that might be a while before I can do that.
Yeah.
And then it's gotten to the point where I've gotten so many requests that I have to say, maybe not in the near future, maybe sometime later, because I just can't. Like, people ask me to do a Preacher Omnibus Volume 2, and
Oh,
I
I
have
want to
the
see that.
and I have the absolutes. So I was like, oh yeah, I could buy it. That's another thing too, is budgeting, right? Yes, I can
Yeah.
spend it and
Oh,
write it
good.
off.
We speak about budgeting all the time here.
Well, yep. Okay, so full-time job, I could write it off of my taxes. Woo, awesome, right? Why wouldn't I
Yeah.
buy every book? Well, limited funds, and writing it off of my taxes is like 3 cents to the dollar. So
Oh,
$150 omnibus, even at a discounted price of what, 70, $80, whatever it is, I can only write off so much of it.
yeah.
Uncle Sam's going to get his money here in America one way or another, and he's not going to let me slide by because I bought $10,000 worth of Omnis because I have a YouTube channel. It's
Probably
just,
not.
it's just facts.
Pro-
It's just
yeah.
facts of life. So,
One
um,
thing I wanted to note
yeah,
with you getting fired and everything from your career on 20 years of IT, I mean, because I think with the generation that's out now, there's not going to be any more 20-year careers out there. People are going to want to revitalize themselves every decade or so and try out new things. I really think that with the attention span that people is having and want to do more. So I think actually it was the perfect time in your life. Still, maybe it was at a bad time, but still
yeah.
20 years into it and now starting on a new path. I think just in the right time in your life where you can give this another, I mean, give this another decade or so,
I
as long
think,
as people are watching.
yeah.
And job security, I wanted to mention that as well,
Mhm.
because you're truly not ever secure at your job, whether if you're sitting there or not. One
Right.
day they walk in and you already had this other path laid out for you. I mean, it
As a,
wasn't in the
as a
in the
hobby.
intention
Yeah.
for full time, but still
Mhm.
you had several incomes.
It was, well, it wasn't profitable for anybody that has ever had a YouTube channel and has tried to make it into a success, you end up spending so much time and money in it, whether you're doing giveaways, whether you're buying material for your channel, than you do making money, right? Unless,
Yeah.
I don't know. And I say that, but there are some people that can come in and say, hey, look, I have all of this. That's usually what I like to call the living vicariously channels. Like a lot of people, there was a show called Life of the Rich and Famous. I can't remember. It was in the 80s and late 70s, where people would watch like how rich people live. I feel like that is one of the way to succeed on YouTube is show off this grand, whether it's cars, sneakers, comics, whatever it is, and people will tune in to live vicariously through you because they themselves cannot afford that. That I think is the easiest path if you have money. So if you have unlimited funds, or if you just are really good with money.
I say define your own version of success, and you'll never have to watch any of those shows again.
What was it? Oh man, the other MTV brought it back as like Cribs, MTV Cribs.
Yeah,
right. I'm sure your generation probably is more familiar with that. But
yeah, I am.
But then there's I think other ways of doing you, and there's definitely a huge stress factor. There are several channels that try to do it and realize, holy crap, this is a lot of work I'm putting into this. And one of the things you have to tell yourself is, why are you doing it at all? Are you doing this for yourself or fame and fortune? Sadly, a lot of people come into this lifestyle of YouTube
trying to make it,
like want to be the next viral star, want to be the next, oh, this is easy, because some channels do make it look easy. I'm sorry. Hell, I could read a Wikipedia entry and sit behind the camera, or behind the camera where nobody sees me, and tell you all about X-Men. Sure. But anybody that has ever seen my channel knows damn well my stuff's not ever scripted. It's not that I'm smart. It's like I'm speaking from my experience. Like this is where I was at a time in my life when I was reading these stories. And that's why a lot of them speak to me. And I remember them more than I do events happening in my real life at the time. I remember going to accepted into this enrichment program a few times. 3 summers in a row. It's like some science and math enrichment program. And I went away for a month away from my parents from the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. So maybe that was 5 years. Grades. I can maybe think of like 5 or 6 different things. One of them was, of course, crushing on this one girl named Sarah. Shout out to you, Sarah.
Shout out to you, Sarah.
We had a thing for like one summer. It was a little summer fling. Anyway,
exclusives here on Finding Fandom.
Right. I don't think my wife even knows that story. Sarah Joseph, super smart girl. She went on. She's like one of the leading. What is she? Leading biochemist in the country.
This is going places I did not expect.
I didn't talk about Sarah, but anyway, 6 maybe things that happened through those 5 years. But I could tell you that I picked up my issue of Uncanny X-Men 160, what was it? 167 at a comic shop during that trip in 1993. One of those trips when we were in Campbellsville, Kentucky, and there was a comic shop and they had an issue of 160. I can tell you that it was $1.25, and I asked the guy if he'd take $1 for it. But so there are things, in my brain.
You started haggling early.
Of course I haggled. Dude, I'm from a third world country. We haggled all the time. We had open markets and stuff, man. My mom taught me that.
That's
actually, my uncle. But
okay, let me throw out a word now. Completionist.
Yes, I think so. But I'm also a cautious completionist.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay.
Elaborate.
Okay. So I know that I have a very addictive personality. I know
What do you mean?
Well, if I start with Green Arrow, I'm going to get all of Green Arrow in trade paperback format. Now that's why I have to sometimes break things and I think on my channel I've stated several times, my DC continuity starts with Crisis on Infinite Earths. Could
Yeah.
be a way of subconsciously telling myself, do not buy any Golden Age and Silver Age Omnis, knowing damn
Yeah.
well you've tried to read them in the past and they're not your cup of tea. Could be. I also am aware that I cannot go down a rabbit hole of an expensive hobby that has no end. So I collect some toys from time to time. I do that as well.
Yes.
And there was a line that came out a few years ago called the Masters of the Universe Classics line. They were
Oh.
released by Mattel. They were part of the Matty Collector line. Each one of them retailed for $50 to $75. That line is over, and it's been over for the last few years. So I started looking into it, and I realized I was somewhere, and I found one cheap. Keep in mind, there's over 100 figures, and I found one for
Yeah.
like $20. But I remember picking it up and thinking, if I buy this, I'm gonna have to find the rest of them because I know how my brain is, and I won't sleep until I have the complete set without double dipping with 2 He-Mans or 2 Skeletors. I don't need that. I'm not that crazy, but I'm not calling anyone else that does that though. That's
Of
cool.
course, we're
I'm not
not
calling
judging
anyone
anybody
out.
else. We're just talking about
Well,
our own
yeah, you all do
perspective.
with your money. I remember picking it up and I had to put it down because I thought if I bought it, I will go down that rabbit hole. The same thing when I sell things.
Okay.
When I
If you
like,
start sell something, maybe you'll sell even more of that thing that you already have surrounding
well,
that same subject.
I decided a few years ago, in order to fund this particular hobby and other hobbies I was more into, I sold my physical copies of Super Nintendo games.
Oh.
And I remember holding on to Secret of Mana still in a box, which is by far one of my favorite video games of all time, and Final Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 6 for outside of Japan, both in a box with their instruction booklet, and Final Fantasy 3 had the strategy guide. And I said, I'm going to keep these two because they mean so much to me. I love them. And then I listed them in was it a Facebook page or a forum, and I said no, because if I keep these two, I'm going to buy the rest of my games back.
Okay.
And I have to let it go. I have to draw lines. Yeah, I'm sure there's, some. I'm 100% sure there is some kind of psychological. I don't want to call it a disorder, but in a way,
No.
it is very. That there is something about collectors that I don't want to say borderline. How do I put it without getting too much into trouble with folks?
Well, the video
I,
is not on your channel, so maybe your viewers
well,
won't see
no.
it.
It's just something my friends and I have talked about that are also collectors, and all of them agree. Like, yeah, obviously, there is something mentally wrong with me. And then I don't want to say mentally wrong. It's just we have a different way of thinking than people that don't collect. There's a difference between
of course
you.
we have. Of course we are.
There's a difference between you and the guy that you sit next to at a cubicle at work that has one toy sitting at his desk, and you are lined up with action figures at home and at work. There's a big line. But I think, in a way, sports fanatics can get that way too, painting themselves to go to support their sports teams. So,
And that's a fandom in its own. But
yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
not as much, maybe not the same quantity. I mean, I've seen sport memorabilia room tours. It could get just as crazy as this. And I mean, autograph stuff, t-shirts, baseball bats, footballs, everything. I mean, it's its own fandom in it. And it could get just as expensive, I think. But
well, yeah, and if that's what, but here's the thing though, if that's what makes you happy, if that's what makes you keep going, if that's, because I take it to heart when people reach out to me and tell me how important these things are. Like whenever I do, one of my favorite things I do is the breaking news announcements. It's one of my favorite segments I do. Not because it's like, oh, I got the news first, haha. It's because I know how much it means to people. Because I know how much it meant to me when I was having a crappy day,
Yeah.
and I would look at a solicitation of an upcoming something that's not happening for another 5 months, and I was like, damn, that's cool, man. 5 months from now, I'm gonna be in a better place because I'm gonna buy that book.
And that's what makes you so grounded, because you remember how it was before you got into that stage of
Yes,
your
and I
career
will
and
not,
life and
and I
everything.
will.
And as long as you hold on to that, you'll know your audience and stay close to it, I think.
And thank you. And I know how much that means to people because I was there, and I still am, and I still am.
Yeah.
Um, because there are some people that are like, oh, who cares about this book, or oh yeah, I'll get it, But I know the importance of these books. I mean, I've been emailed, about depression, about suicide, and things like that, and how much it means to people. Whatever the hell is holding on, it makes you hold on.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. Whatever it is in this life that makes you hold on, then who? Yes, that's more important than hitting that like button or whatever.
Yeah.
To me.
Okay. I'll move on here.
Okay.
So, because I've heard you say this several times when it comes to why you are a completionist. Still, now we've added cautious completionist, but still, with X-Men and everything, would you say that everything is gold, or that there are no highs without any lows?
Oh yes. How do you? It's like life, right? How do
Yeah.
you know the feeling of a good kiss when you haven't had a bad one? How do you know, like experiencing roller coasters when you've never ridden one, or ridden really crappy ones at the local fairs that you have?
Yeah.
In life you have to experience things, and sure, why not read through the crappy stories so you know when the good ones are good? Just like movies. Unless you're going
Yeah.
into a movie for the sake of going into a movie knowing what to expect, like M. Night Shyamalan. I know what to expect out of a Shyamalan flick, but sometimes I just need a crappy movie in my life.
It's a gamble if not.
Yeah, and X-Men, I mean, they'll break your heart, man. Being an X-Men fanatic for over 30 years will break your heart. Ups and downs. Don't agree with the team. Don't agree with the way they're going. Don't agree with second mutation. Don't agree with certain relationships. No, it's an interesting. It's been interesting to look back at it and see how much of it has changed.
Do
Because
you
no
feel
matter
like
how happy you are with changes, you're like, oh my god, it feels so good to be an X-Men fan. Doesn't matter. A year from now, that could change. Somebody else, another writer, could take everything you loved about the previous writer and go
true?
out the
Do you
window.
feel that you implement this thinking into every long run that you read Batman, Spider-Man, and everything? Do you appreciate all the highs more now with, I'm not saying so many lows, but I mean, with having such a wide range of books and material that you read? Bec-
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Of course, I'm getting older, so like, dude, I'm even trying to teach my kids this. Like, how do you appreciate a good story if you don't know what a bad one is? If your whole life is if your whole life is reading an omnibus of the best X-Men stories, then how do you know, what to compare it to? And hell, you might even find some gems in there that nobody else likes. There are stories that I enjoy that everyone else I've ever talked to hates, like Avengers: The Crossing.
yeah,
Like, I don't
I
care.
haven't read it, so I can't
Well,
tell.
more than likely you're gonna agree with the other people, but I don't care. I've gotten to the age where sure, you don't like it, that's on you, man. I love it. Makes me happy.
Yeah,
So like it's and I get to see that, and now I get to play the middleman of like delivering the news to people about upcoming omnis, and you can see the division in the comment section. It's funny to see, like, oh, this is the worst comic book ever. Why would they adapt this? And meanwhile, somebody else is like, oh my god, this is like my favorite story. One of my favorite ones that comes to mind is the announcement of the Knights of Pendragon. A lot of people.
Yeah, I did not know what that was.
Okay, well, neither did like 90% of Americans, because that was most of the reaction. Like, what is this? They could be printing Iron Fist. Why don't we get Web of Spider-Man Omnibus? We get Knights of Pendragon. Nobody wants this garbage. Meanwhile, there was a whole Twitter feed where I was tagged, where hundreds of people were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe Marvel's printing my childhood." So just because it doesn't mean anything to you doesn't mean that it's not going to mean something important to somebody else.
Of course.
And learning that, like, I stay out of it, you know. And
Yeah.
I don't jump into a conversation or comments unless it's getting ridiculous or people are insulting each other or getting racist. Because I understand fandom. Fandoms are really heated. Whether you're into sports, you always have to have competition. And I think comic book fans are the same way.
Yeah. And as you know, my angle that I've recently, I mean, this year, I've been focusing on a lot of videos on minimalism and essentialism to get it into my collection habits and everything. So I'm trying to find what's more essential. That means like trying to actually dig out all the lows and trying to have, I guess, all around peaks within my collection. And of course, I have to read all of my stuff to actually find out what I find essential for myself and my own collection. And that is what everybody should do. Go ahead and read your books to find out your highs and lows. Then if you want to sell your lows, that's up to you. But still, I wanted to speak about this, the complete versus the essential, because of course there's no right or wrong, but I just wanted to bring out both sides on it. Because I mean, you get some books from Marvel, I assume, sent to you.
Mm-hmm.
But do you feel that you're obligated to read all of those books as well for the review videos and overview videos?
I feel like I would cheat people out of, how do I put it? Like, I feel a certain amount of guilt if I'm just phoning it in. If I don't read something and I just open it up and I give the audience a turning of the page and saying, "Oh, this is Loki. He's Thor's brother. Here he is. He looks really creepy." That's
no surface information, just the essential, the thing that would work to any Loki book. You wouldn't say something like
right.
that.
So here's the thing. Like, to me, I make videos that I want to see. So if I were watching
Excellent.
somebody that was just, showing me pictures, yeah, I know what a damn picture looks like. I get it. But I want to know a little more. Like, you don't have to spoil things, that I never try to. But I'd like to know a little more about why this book needed to be made. Like, what is the content of this book? Where does this fit in? If I was reading Spider-Man, where does this Untold Tales of Spider-Man fit in? Is the story canon or not? Things like that I feel like, yeah, if I don't read the stuff, then who the hell am I to tell people what to buy and what not? And I never do tell people. I'm very neutral.
That's what.
Even with the stories I don't like, I show, my job is to show the art and talk about the particular stories and things in it without giving my 2 cents. And people have been asking me to add my 2 cents into the overviews, but I feel like, how do I put it? I feel like that's a big responsibility, because if I don't make it a secret that I'm not a big fan of Brian Michael Bendis. I wasn't the biggest fan.
No, you do not.
I was not a big fan of his Daredevil run, nor was I a big fan of his New Avengers run. But holy crap, that stuff got so many people to read Avengers and Daredevil. If I were to say I don't like this and people took me to my word, then a lot of people would be missing out on what in their mind are great stories. And I don't want to do that to anybody. That's just my opinion. I mean, I guess I could end it with, and remember, this is my opinion. And I guess I could do that, but I'd rather people make up their own mind. I mean, I hear I don't ever watch movie reviews. I don't ever read reviews of comics. I don't care. It's not that I don't care. It's just that it doesn't matter.
You want to form your own opinion.
Right. At the end of the day, it's my opinion about these certain stories or these movies, and that's that. Whether people agree with me or not,
Yeah.
that's up to them. But I like for people to make up their own mind about stories, especially when you're spending $100 to $150 on a book. These things aren't cheap.
No.
The last thing I want to do is recommend, I mean, with the exception of New Warriors, because I mean, let's face it, it is one of the greatest stories ever.
I just knew you would get that in somewhere. Okay. A subject. Whoa. A subject that I take up several times in several videos is the fear of missing out.
Yes.
And what is your best advice to control the fear of missing out, would you say? And do not say not following your channel, because I don't like that joke.
But it's not a joke. It's not a joke. Somebody asked me that on a Saturday stream, and my answer
That was me.
Was that you? Okay. I'm sorry. No, it was somebody else because you were
Okay, I'm sure several people have asked that actually. So
my answer was stop watching videos like this. Stop watching channels like this. Because I know the mentality of somebody that you got to put yourself into the perspective of an addict, right? When you don't know who you're dealing with. So whether it's books, whether it's alcohol, whether it's prostitutes, whether it's drugs, whatever it is, there's a certain addiction to these things. An addiction that you put this, whatever it is, toys, cars, sneakers, comics,
phones, computers.
Before anything else, before your family. You don't realize you're doing it. You don't realize you're purchasing these things because, I mean, look how disconnected we've become with these things. 2 push of my phone, and I have bought a $300 purchase. That's it. We're not handing cash out anymore, so this has become easier for you to spend money.
Yes,
and spend money that you don't even have because it comes out of your credit card. So I was 100% serious because of that kind of addicting personality. Maybe I said that. Maybe I said it depends on the type of personality you have. But if you have the personality that's like, I need that book, I'm going to get it no matter what, and I'll worry about paying for it later, paying the credit card company or whoever I owe money to afford it, then you need to stop watching. Like I lost my, this isn't the first time I've lost my job. I've lost a similar job.
Okay.
It was before we started the channel. And I had to leave Facebook groups. And I had to stop watching reviews of video games and toys. That was more into toys back then.
Was that more to concentrate on finding the next job?
It was, and not to be tempted.
Yeah.
Not to be tempted because these things are out there. Because if I don't know that these things are out there and I don't know they exist, then my brain doesn't worry about it, right?
I do the same with ads and spam mails and everything, trying to filter all that out. I didn't have the most addictive personality when it came to purchasing things, but I did have a monthly routine where I would go into the next town over where my local comic shop was. And I mean, I got the paycheck for the month and everything. And I went into the clothes store, bought new clothes. I didn't need new clothes. I still went in there and everything, was just searching for something, I mean, to fill up. And that's an addiction in its own. I mean, I did it automatically and everything.
Without even thinking about it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think, it's what I wasn't joking. I was being serious. I think some people
I get it now. I totally do.
But I worry about, people in general, not these things will always be there. You go get a job, you take care of your family, you do that first. You put this aside. This is a hobby. This is something you don't need. I joke about needing something. I need this in my life. It's just once. But it's so hard to do that when you're seeing it every day. You're watching YouTube channels. You're watching, you're in a Facebook group where everybody's like, look at my big HasLab Sentinel. I've got one and you don't. Before you know it, you're on eBay bidding $1,000. And that's not the way that things should be.
Yeah. Because I've talked with several channels now about this, how, I mean, we are influencers, of course. There are no Marvel or DC ads for the comic books because we do that for them. We are the commercial and influencers of the comic book media. And I guess I've been trying to take my own responsibility, and this is just my personal way of doing it. I quit making haul videos because I simply didn't think that I affected people in a positive way by showing up books and just said, this was a nice cover. I bought it. It looked cool. And then go on to the next one. And that is all the information that was needed for somebody else to buy it just as blind as I did.
Mhm.
And instead, I started doing monthly review videos of all the books that I read, so that to
And
give at least more information, so they have something more to go on if this would actually be something for them.
so years ago, somebody asked me. This is about 3 years ago. Whenever I started doing the upcoming collected editions, they asked me to do. Why don't you do your top 10, like your top 10 most wanted that you would buy? And I
Yeah.
said sure. And then somebody else said, why don't you do the top 10 that you know are going to sell out? And that's when I said no.
Oh God, because that would
They
stress
they
out people
they
so
asked
much.
they asked me to do which ones are going to become a well here in about a month or so. And I decided that I can't do that because that's a big responsibility. That like there's a difference between me going, here's 10 books I recommend, whether you buy them or read them, whatever it is. I think these are in the range, right? They're $9 books to $100 books. But to say, here are 10 books that if you don't buy this month, you're not going to be able to buy next. And I get it because YouTube really is heavy on that.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of these channels that do comic books, it's not even reviews, speculations, right? Like,
Yeah, I've seen those.
this single issue is going to be worth hundreds and thousands of dollars, but you have to buy it now before the movie comes out. Or I mean, it's almost like a guessing game. Guess what top five books are going to be worth tons of
It's
money.
gambling. That
And
is no difference from gambling.
I think, to me, there's a certain responsibility when it comes to my viewers. I mean, if people have money and enjoy those kind of videos and can shell out hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars on these books that people are speculating will be hot one day, then more power to them. But I feel like I try to keep a level head because whenever you have a following, you have to have, at least I think, a responsibility, and I owe it to them.
I completely agree.
So I know I don't do a good job, but I try my best not to drive FOMO into people, and that's fear of missing out, like you stated earlier, because some people don't have the money to do it.
Yeah.
Some
I guess
don't.
I'm a little naive about it, I guess. When you suggested that do not follow my channel, I guess I was naive thinking that one could simply follow the channel and then choose what videos to watch, knowing what type of videos, what type of titles that this will probably affect me to buy more books. Maybe I should skip this one. Maybe I'll watch this review video instead. That'll give me more value and more thoughts into my next purchase.
So, and it's just my way of thinking. Again, it's not.
Of course.
People can do whatever they want to with their channels. It was just my decision 3 years ago when I was asked, "Can you do books that you know will go out of print?" And so I have a list of books what to buy, and putting those in priority instead of other books that will be there for a while.
Yeah.
And I said no, I can't do that. But thank you for the suggestion, because I don't. Even when people ask me, like, what do you think the chances of this being reprinted are? I'm like, there's always a chance, whether it's DC or Marvel. And hell, we've even had limited hardcovers come back into print, like Dark Horse. The only thing I think won't come back into print, is just me being honest, are the things that are licensed. So if you find it's Marvel Essential Godzilla, that license now falls into IDW.
Yeah.
So they probably don't have a chance to reprint that. So things like that, I don't mind telling people. But speculating what books are going to go out of print and then having people, save up money, and then 2 months from now, me announcing it, like, oh, it's going to be reprinted.
Yeah, it wouldn't look good.
Right.
And so I guess I'll take. This is a new question. I don't know how good of a contrast this will be to the fear of missing out question, but I think it's more fun. Name a book that you would want universal availability and understanding for everybody who is into comics. Name one title that you love that you want everybody to love and to have read.
God Loves Man Kills. X-Men, God Loves Man Kills. I love that. Love that story, man. But ultimately, X-Men, I guess. I think X-Men teaches a lot of things in life that are important to me and have made me the person I am. And I hope people see that.
I think they do. And I think that was the book that I was expecting, actually. Okay, Omar, this is the standard question for Finding Fandom.
Okay, what's the standard question?
How would you describe your fandom?
What are my? Is this multiple choice? Like out of control?
You can
Control.
think about this however you want, philosophical, physically.
Oh man,
It depends on the person, I guess.
see, my fandom is something that I love sharing with other people because I love sharing stories, whether they're comics or whether they happen to me in real life. You know, with now, my viewers. So I guess my fandom is fueled by passion. There you go.
Yeah. There we have it. It's always one word. Everybody always singles out with one word. I love that.
I said fueled by passion. Fueled by passion. 3 words.
Okay, but passion, I mean keyword.
Mm.
I'm not trying to edit you
What
here.
did my wife say? What did my wife say? I know you interviewed her.
Oh God, what did
You
she say?
remember?
I mean,
You don't have to tell me.
it was weeks ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Oh, damn me doing these pre-recorded live streams. This is the only thing about it that's the downside of it, that I can't remember too much in between everything because time is so fluent. But my schedule is not, I guess. I also have this question: what makes you a comic book fan? And this could really be the same question, but if you have another answer for it, go for it.
What makes me a comic book fan? My lack of savings in savings account. My bank account. I always told myself, man, my favorite car is a Shelby Cobra, 1969. If I look at the things I
And you have 2 in there.
I probably would have had 2, man. No joke. I would have had 2. This is more fun.
This is more fun. I said that too when I said that I probably would have driven a better looking car than I have when I showed off my collection to some friends.
Mm-hmm.
But this is more fun. This has given me more enjoyment over the years than a car ever would.
Yeah, I can't imagine Mustang or somebody contacting me to do breaking news videos on Cobras.
I'm gonna throw in another question, new for this show as well. Okay. And I know this is the second to last one, and the last one is standard. What is a tool or skill that you have developed to better your craft more than others, do you think?
A tool or skill
helping you with YouTube, comic books, hunting, whatever?
My goodness. Talking to my viewers as if, instead of looking at them as just names on the internet, like I'm starting, whenever I see people in the live stream, seeing them as people. Like talking to them like they're friends. So whenever they reach out, they email me with not even comic book stuff, but now some of them reach out to me with just life advice, and it's been wonderful. So I guess seeing and treating people like people. I don't know if that's a craft. I mean,
but I think people skills is very good.
One of those things that I've always been good at is talking to people, though. So I guess I'm trying to show that through through this age where we're so disconnected, where all you're seeing is somebody on your phone or your TV, and they may reply back to a comment. And that's one thing I've always tried to do, was reply to comments, but the comments have just gotten so out of hand on my videos, and I'm not bragging at all. I think it's
No, no,
wonderful.
no. I totally see your
I
side of this.
but if I reply back to every comment like I used to, that keeps me away from reading and video, editing and
Yeah.
learning new editing techniques, and also recording the material. So it's difficult to do it. I want to. I miss it. I miss having that connection with everybody, because it was one thing that I always enjoyed doing. But oh my gosh, it's just impossible to do.
I
I
think
hope it
still,
always is.
but still, I like that answer, and I totally see it. Whenever I see you connect with people on live streams in the comment section, and I mean, you
Thanks,
can
man.
really see it. This is the last question.
Okay.
Easiest question tonight. What makes you? Sorry, that's the wrong one. Oh God,
I've
for
already
the
answered
first
that one.
time, for the first time. Okay, I'm jumbling my questions. Here it is. The last question for the evening.
Okay.
Where can people find you?
Hey, that is an easy one. Where's my?
Home address and everything.
I'll keep my home address out, but my YouTube channel is Near Mint Condition. You can find me there. We're on social media: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Near Mint Con. But yeah, Near Mint Condition is where you'll find me every day.
There we go. And links, of course, to all of that is down there in the description for everybody that is viewing this interview. Omar, I want to thank you so much for joining me here for Finding Fandom with me.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for asking me on. I'm so sorry I had to delay this by a little bit of time. I'm
It
sorry.
was so worth it. I know you're a busy guy, and I think we'll have time to do this again sometimes, don't you?
Yes, yes, please. I'd like that.
Awesome. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you in another video.
Bye, everybody.